if you look at a typical print shop, right, versus a shop that's trying to go through rapid expansion, you always have to front load labor when you're trying to grow quickly. What I mean by that is you have to hire a salesperson and it's going to take them a year to actually start to really move, right? You have to hire marketing people, put them in place, and it might take 3 to 4 months before they actually start to pull their weight. And so I read this like a head count or a ratio of revenue per employee. Bruce, have you ever heard this before? Like
Yeah,
really strong companies can have like 300K per employee. You take your total revenue, divide it by the amount of total people you have, and that's your like head count ratio. And what you really want to try to do is build economies of scale so that if one employee is able to get 2x, you want 1.5 employees to get like 5x, if that makes sense. So you want to continually increase that ratio. Am I saying that right, Bruce? Right? Isn't that how tech looks at it?
It's a good rough measurement to say, am I overspending on people or not?
Yeah. But Hunter, when you think of being labor heavy, are you labor heavy in the sales, marketing, technology? Like that's how we are at Campus Inc. That's our biggest expense. How is it for you guys?
It's flip-flopped, I'd say. I'd say it probably would benefit from being reversed, right? Like we're more heavy in the production side of things. And like I said, I think it's because we're doing so many different things, right? Like compared to like your standard shop that you go in and they're, just doing screen printing and embroidery and maybe they sub everything else. And we're doing a lot of that stuff in-house, right? So it's like you need somebody to run all these machines and they need to do that full time, right? And it's like,
do you feel like, and this is awesome. This is a real conversation, and shops listening to this, like these are the things that keep us up at night is, do we go wide or do we go deep, right? Like, do we dig 20, 10-foot holes or 10, 40-foot holes, right? Have you thought, and I think for listeners, you do on-demand decoration, right? You're running e-commerce, you're still bulk printing, merch stores, you're working on shirt desks. There's all these different things that you're doing. Have you ever thought about narrowing your scope and just like literally cutting pieces of the business off that are sort of diluting you?
Yeah. I mean, like I talk about this all the time, like with our team, it's like when I sat down for our end of year meeting last year or this year for last year, I was like, look, like moving forward, we've got to find a niche. Like we've got to figure out like, what is this thing we're going to be really good at? And like, what are we going to, like, we need to eliminate everything else. So I think like we're shirt desk is that goal, right? It's like, how can we get to that point to where that's crushing the revenue at Maryland Print House and then can kind of like take over that in a way. And like, we can retain the same staff, but I'd love to do both. It's just, I think you just have to have really good people, right? Like, I mean, we will turn over people if we don't think they're a good fit, and we'll find like good people that are motivated and have the same and share the same goals. And I think that sounds like way easier said than done. But it's really true. Like you need to have like rock stars in each position from the person, the operations manager, all the way down to, screen cleaning, like, right. Like it could be anything. At every position, they need to want to be there every day. And I think a lot of times what happens is as shops scale, you have these 2, 3, 4, bad apples that are just like the owner might not be as involved as they need to be or whatever. And it's like, once you're able to figure out who these bad apples are and you remove them and you replace them with good ones, it just changes the entire dynamic of the business, right? And it's like, one thing that we've learned over the last probably year and a half is like, we've got to get rid of those people that aren't fitting in or aren't putting in the work a lot sooner, because they in turn like affect the entire organization. Like if it's somebody in production, right? And like these guys are working their ass off doing overtime like nonstop, and you've got this one dude that's in there it's not carrying his weight. Like that pisses everybody off, right? And it's like people that give a fuck like want everybody else to as well, right? So it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's played a massive part. I've started to find myself like dealing with HR stuff a lot more in recent, like last year, than I've ever wanted to, and I hate it.
Welcome to the size where, dude, you know the problem
Welcome
with
to
that though is it never stops from here. It only grows until you can bring on someone